staff hours or employee hours. How do I enter these so that they appear up on the appointment book so we can make appointments to it? Under contacts, navigate to hours. The hours are contact related, which is your staff. So when you navigate to your hours under contacts, it comes up with your screen, of course. Each particular staff member that you select is related to that specific salon that you're on. I have already a roster entered for a person, a staff member, and that roster starts on that particular date. And if you don't have a to date, it continues indefinitely. If you click on here, you can actually create an end date. And when you have an end date, you can create a new roster which starts from the day after that or the next week or whatever it is. Okay? But what I'll do now is I'll go and select a new staff member which has no rosters in at all. So if you go and look, it comes up as a blank. The 3-month calendar shows you here, if it's all in blue like this, that's today's date. So no time has been, no roster has been put in. So to add a new roster, I'm going to add a new roster. And that roster start date is going to be from the 13th, which is tomorrow. And I'm going to leave it indefinitely. In this case, I'm going to select just a 1 cycle. You could have a 2 cycle roster. In other words, week 1, week 2, and then back to week 1. So you can continue doing that as week 1, week 2. So for the simplicity of this, I'm going to just select 1 and save. It'll come up and then give you created a entry under the roster, which is the from date. Continue on. Yeah, I can delete that if I want to. Cycle 1, if I selected 2 or 3 in that cycles, I'll have a multiple cycle here, but cycle 1 is all that I selected. So how do I get hours in so that they start appearing? The light purple tells you here that, hey, I have now a roster that I've put in, I've created, no hours mapped out yet. So to enter hours, I'm going to say, right, this person now starts in at 10 o'clock on a Monday. All I do is click on the 10 o'clock and it will create a block as standard from the time you clicked on to the time it ends. But all you need to do is just click on that to change the actual time. So I'm going to now click on different times. That one's at 9 and I'm dropping that down to there, and this one is at that time and that time and so on. So I went and I created times for the days of the week and changing the finish times accordingly and so on. Okay, now nothing will appear here for this week because the roster starts next week. So if I click on top here on that week, it will come up and then show you the next week, which is that they're all the same color because they come from the roster. Okay, these will now appear on the appointment book as the roster times that you've entered. Now, for example, on this specific Wednesday, the client is, or the staff member is not going to be in on that day. So if you click on it, you can then click day off. So by clicking this day off, for that particular day, it's gone on all grayed, and you can see that it's grayed. So this staff member is not going to be in for that day. On the Saturday, for some reason, the roster needs to stay the same because every week it's going to be like that. But on that Saturday, I need to make a little bit of a change. So if I actually move this up a little bit over there, and I'm changing the hours a bit because that particular Saturday, that's the hours, it will turn into white. So the white is an indication on the left, which is your actual hours that's going to be displayed related directly into the appointment book, will be the white color, which is the white which indicates that there's a specific change made on that day that's only specific to that day. and the purple ones are your roster time. So if you go to the next week, if I click over here to the next week, it'll show you everything becomes purple again because it's roster related. I'll go back to that week again, and I now need to revert this back to the roster time. It's change of mind. So if you click on this, you can go on sync to roster. If you go sync to roster, it will then go back to what the roster is. If I need to click day off back to what it needs to be, if I click on it, it'll put in an hour's time in there, and I can then click on it and go back to sync to roster. So that now goes back to what it was. So I'll make this a change for that specific day, and that's how you enter hours. So let's now go ahead and say, okay, this roster is going to end at a certain time. So if I click on this, and I'm going to say now the roster is going to end, it's starting on the 13th, and it's going to end on the 26th. It's only going to be a 2-week place where it's going to end. Now when you put an end date, it comes up with a future button, so that if I click future, it'll blank it off and it'll continue on. So if I go save, you'll see that now you have an entry in there, and you only have this roster available for 2 weeks. I'm going to now create another roster that's going to be a change from the next week after that. So if I add roster, and I'll go from the 27th, which is the 27th there, and it'll continue. And I'm going to now make this as a 3-cycle roster. Save. So now you can see that I've got now 3 cycles in the system. The first purple cycle, which is what I'm selected on now, and I'm going to select in hours for the purple cycle, and going to make this quite simple. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to enter in for cycles. So you can see all the purple cycles I have roster times entered in. Cycle number 2, I'm going to go for a different cycle. This is the next cycle. That's all I'm going to enter for cycle 2. And as you notice, nothing in cycle 3, so I'm going to do that the same for cycle 3. Enter time in for cycle 3. So as you can see now, the darker colors are where you have actual times in, and the light colors are all linked to your cycle times that you have in. It's quite easy to see. And if you go to that specific week by clicking on it, it shows you what will actually get displayed in that particular week. Okay, and that's your cycle, that's the time. So it shows you, of course you can add times in. So for this particular week, if I click on here, you'll have another white block entered in for that particular date. So that's how you enter rosters, and if you want to have multiple cycles, then that's how it gets viewed.